This podcast does not provide medical advice. Please listen to the complete disclosure at the end of the recording.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Everyone Dies, the podcast. I'm Marianne Matzo.
And I'm Charlie Navarrete.
So grab your adult beverage of choice, a spot of tea, your dessert. Dessert? Okay, sure. That's when you combine desserts with resorts, you get a dessert. Relax, and thank you for spending the next hour with us, as Charlie's going to talk about some famous last words in our third half. And in the second half, we're going to continue our lessons learned from people who were at the end of their lives, specifically invitations number 2, which is welcome everything, push away nothing. And number 3, bringing your whole self to the experience. So, Charlie, are you offering death by chocolate brownies today?
Sure, why not? Now, a good homemade brownie recipe is hard to come by. Just like a good man.
Amen.
Either we opt for the box most of the time, doctored with cookies and cream, of course, but trust us, when we say this is it, this is the homemade brownie recipe that will change everything. Fudgy on the inside with that iconic crackly top and the perfect edges. This is a true carpe diem treat. And you are welcome.
Did you say carbe as in carbs?
Carbe with a B, P. Yes. Wasn't that clever?
That is so clever.
Well, not really. It's staring the script, so it's. I'm sorry. What, Sandy?
Sandy's going to post that recipe, so we encourage everybody to try it and send it to us. No, I'm kidding. Well, not really. So
what about the new email?
Oh, okay. Please go to Everyone Dies. That's EVERY, the number 1 dies.org. Send us your own death by chocolate recipes that we can share with others. Also, we appreciate your questions, your jokes, and anything else you want to tell us. And we have a new email address for you to send that stuff to. It's mail, not the gender, but the word MAIL at everyonedies.org. That's mail, MAIL, at everyonedies.org. So, breaking news, Charlie Navarrete, what is fresh off the ticker tape?
Sadly, our continuing story about scammers in this time of coronavirus. So, as we've spoken before about scammers targeting seniors and hospital administrations at this, very vulnerable time of the coronavirus, adding to that list, pet scammers. Scammers fleecing people trying to buy pets online. You're in the court. Marianne, just slap these people. People are under quarantine now, so it's a good time for companionship. Plus, you also have time to train your new pet. So,
that's true.
Yep. So people will find a pet store or a breeder online who's offering to sell a pet, at some amazing price, much lower than other stores or breeders online. But without investigating, or, maybe just the minimal amount of investigation, someone will send money or a portion of it. And then suddenly there's a problem. You are asked to send more money to cover the costs of additional costs, shipping, a special crate, a diamond.
Neutering.
I'm sorry, did you say loitering?
Neutering.
Yes, neutering online. It's a neutering. It's a self. It's a video, and it's on YouTube. For a small contribution to our website, we will give. Don't fall for these scammers. And no, we don't have a neutering online class, so please do not send us money.
We will discuss it and get back to you.
Will there be pictures?
If I have anything to do with it, there will be.
Yes, that's right. Remember to please clean your instruments in more ways than one. So... So getting back to the business at hand, people send their money and nothing comes back in return. There's no puppy, there's no kitty, nothing. Or maybe
no turtle,
no turtle,
no llama.
I was going to say, no, who do you contact? I was going to say no pet fish. I'm not sure you can mail a pet fish. Goldfish, but that's gold.
Can you tuna fish?
I was going to say you can mail tuna fish, goldfish, especially the extra sharp cheddar ones. Yes, but I digress.
Only a little.
Yeah. So yes, so you send money and nothing comes back, or maybe you refuse to send extra money, and then ask for a refund. Yeah, good luck with that. You've been ripped off.
Oh my God, this is sad.
It really is. I mean, it is. Look, normally our listeners probably would not, buy or order a pet, sight unseen. But because we're in the middle of this pandemic and you're feeling the need for company, or still, you should never buy a pet sight unseen. However, after you Google pets, without Googling enough for investigation or to make sure the seller is legitimate, please also make sure to check with the Better Business Bureau. There's also a website called petscams.com. So that's PETSCAMS.com. There are always people ready to take advantage of you, especially now. Buyer, beware.
Well, thank you for that, Charlie. That's sad.
You were late on that cue, Marianne.
Huh?
You were late on the cue.
Shoot me.
So, what's next?
So, for our second half, we're going to take a look at the 5 invitations. And we started talking about this in our previous episode. The 5 invitations, discovering what death can teach you about living fully. It's a book, and the link to that is on our webpage. It's by Frank Ostaseski, who has a lot of S's in his name, so I kind of just call him Frank O. And the 5 invitations are, number 1, don't wait, which we talked about at our last chat. Number 2, welcome everything, push away nothing. Number 3, bring your whole self to the experience. Number 4, find a place of rest in the middle of things. And number 5, cultivate, don't know mind. And so today we're going to talk about numbers 2 and number 3. So Frank Ostaseski is a Buddhist teacher, and he's the author of this book, The 5 Invitations. And what the author offers is insight into the fact that life and death go together. Everyone's born, everyone dies. And he says that we can't truly live unless we are aware of death. In his hospice work, he's been with many people who have been facing the end of their lives. And in writing this book, he discusses what he learned. So the 5 invitations is a meditation on the meaning of life and how maintaining an ever-present consciousness of death can bring us closer to our truest selves. So the second invitation is welcome everything, push away nothing. And Franco talks about that when we're open and receptive, we have options. We're free to discover, to investigate, and to learn how to respond skillfully to anything that we encounter. We can't be free if we're rejecting any part of our lives. With welcoming comes an ability to meet and work with both pleasant and unpleasant circumstances. Gradually, with practice, we discover that our well-being is not solely dependent on what's happening in our external reality, but it comes from within ourselves. In order to experience true freedom, we need to be able to welcome everything in just as it is. At the deepest level, this invitation, like life itself, asks us to cultivate a kind of fearless responsiveness. Welcome everything, push away nothing cannot be done solely as an act of will. To welcome everything is an act of love. Frank writes, in welcoming everything, we don't have to like what is arising. It's actually not our job to approve or disapprove. The word welcome confronts us. It asks us to temporarily suspend our usual rush to judgment and to simply be open to what's happening. When we're open and receptive, we have options. We're free to welcome everything, push away nothing, and we are free to make that choice. So openness is the basis for a skillful, responsive life. We should ask ourselves, how well do we tolerate the unknown? When I was in nursing school 45 years ago, they used to teach us with principles. And one of the principles that we learned was fear of the unknown creates anxiety. How anxious are we? Remember at the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic, we didn't know what was really going on. We were anxious. And what did we do? We bought toilet paper. Not that it made any sense, but that it was a way of coping with our anxiety. The way we cope with anxiety is that we find something to control. And for whatever reason, in this pandemic, what we felt we could control was our toilet paper purchases, because everything else was sort of out of control. Charlie, what did you want to say?
Actually, it's funny. Just right now with about the toilet paper, it's just people just there runs on different things, but in addition to toilet paper. But originally, when you said about fear, fear of the unknown, it's funny because now it's not funny, but I mean the economy, of course, is in horrible shape. But I just remembered what FDR said. President Roosevelt said about the Depression when everyone, again, I mean, the economy was, it was a depression. And then, people were panicking. I mean, he pretty much just the same thing. We have nothing to fear but fear itself. I mean, he knew,
right.
We would get through it. But people, were panicking, were fearful, understandably so. Mm-hmm. And it's the same now. And what you said, people are fearful. So you go out and buy toilet paper, which will keep you clean for the next 6 months. You have to be able to control that, but it's not. It's the fear itself.
Right.
Yes.
And is that fear going to dominate your decisions and dominate your relationships, or are you going to be like a boat on the sea and just float along with it and see what happens? Again, when I was in nursing school, I was up in Detroit area, and we used to play euchre to relax, and we would spend actually a lot of time sometimes playing euchre. And I used to partner with a guy named Craig who was in my nursing school class, and he had something to say about everything. And he'd repeat the same thing, don't send a lowbower, don't send a boy to do a man's job, he used to say. But he also used to say, no guts, no glory. And meaning, when you're playing euchre, sometimes you just got to kind of be gutsy and see what happens with the game. And I've kind of incorporated that. I never really thought too much about it, but I've really incorporated that no guts, no glory into my life. It's like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Somebody's going to say no. Okay, I can deal with a no, but what if they say yes? Something great could happen. And so that's that kind of, welcome everything. Take that chance, because it might be an incredible outcome. Charlie, do you see a difference between acceptance and resignation?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Can you tell me about that?
No. God, I hate spot quizzes. With acceptance, it's that, I mean, for me, and I think of a movie reference.
No.
I know, shocking. Which is another movie reference, James Bond, Sean Connery. So the Goldfinger, with when Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry would say, a man's got to know his limitations. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to accept your limitations. Not always. And when I say you have to accept your limitations, I used to play tennis. I was very good at tennis. Once I got to college, yeah, what I did very, very well in high school, nobody cared. It was now college. And I knew I would never, it's not that I didn't try. I spent a lot of time trying to break that, if you would, glass ceiling, to at least be a walk-on the team. Not going to happen. I had talent, but I was not gifted at it. So I accepted it. And I enjoyed, tennis at the level I could play. Had I resigned myself to, not to tennis, but to acting, because I've done a lot of work, on stage. And when I first moved to New York, I moved, and I think just because I moved here when I was a little older, when I would hear, I would go to casting calls. Most of the time, I wouldn't get a role, I wouldn't get a job, but I was just so thrilled that I was in New York auditioning, no agent, no contacts. And you were still able to go to an agent's office, a casting director's office. You couldn't always make an appointment, but at the very least, you could drop off a picture. Mm-hmm. And it was just absolutely, it really was exciting for me to be able to audition, for movies, at the time I really focused on theater, but, for off-Broadway things. A couple of times I was able to talk myself into an audition for a couple of Broadway shows, even readings. And again, most of the time I was told no, but for me, I was not, that wasn't a resignation of, gosh, this was stupid, dumb idea. No, I was just so thrilled. I just could not imagine I am actually auditioning in New York. Mm-hmm. So I did not resign myself to anything. And when I finally got my first, union card with the Screen Actors Guild, again, I was doing background work. I just paid attention to what was going on. I saw the casting director for Law and Order. Well, it turned out she was an assistant casting director. I just put myself into the conversation with a small group of people, and it clicked. I think I said something funny or something insightful. Go figure. And I don't remember either. She asked me, was I represented by someone or something? So I said no, but I would love to read for you and see what you think, and so I could have your feedback. So I just put everything that I admire who you are. I would love to have your professional feedback. I don't know if it flattered her, but she let me read. Got my information. Mm-hmm. I got a call back. Went to audition for the casting director. I got a part. I had three lines. No, and something like 4 or 5 lines. 2 of the lines were cut. So I was down to about 3 lines. I did not care. I was, not only was I actually speaking on national TV, it got me my STAG card. It got me my union card.
Mm-hmm.
And even to this day, when I stepped away from it for a while, even to this day, it is still thrilling when someone, lets me go to a reading, to an audition. I've picked up, writing and directing now as well. And people say, "Oh, wait a minute, but you're older now. Where are your Broadway credits? Where are your off-Broadway credits?" Yeah, I'm acting in New York. I'm directing in New York. I'm writing in New York. And yes, it would be nice to have, more stage experience like that. But you know what? Yeah, I'm doing it in New York. So there you are.
And if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, Charlie.
That's what they say. I'm not so sure, but but then, you know what? Also, the nice thing with that is that I've also been able to do work outside of New York. I'm thrilled that I can do work in New York. But if someone I worked with years ago, or just some networking thing, will take me, to Boston, or a couple of times I went back to Ohio. I'm sorry, somebody calling me and asking me, "Hey, will you do?" Absolutely, that's a thrill too. That to have that somebody would call me and say, "Hey, so and so said you do this. Would you mind reading this, or can you take a look at this script or this scene? Can you do something with it?" It's great.
It is. It's great. And I'm always so excited for you when I watch something on TV and I go, "Oh, there's Charlie!"
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. He was on actually Orange is the New Black, and I'll let y'all.
Oh my God! So was I.
You were on Orange is the New Black, is what I said, Goofus.
Sorry.
But everybody can watch all 4 seasons of and see if you can find Charlie.
Oh, please don't torture everyone like that. It was no, it was so it was the what season was it? Second to last season?
How
many seasons were there?
I think it was the second. It was the second to last.
Yeah. It wasn't. It was second to last. You know what? Maybe I should just upload a clip, because in the end, and it was fine. I had lines to read, but in the end, it was cut down to just shots of me.
But it's fine.
You. But you could. Yeah.
I found you. I said I was watching it because I like the show, and I was like, "Oh my God, there's Charlie."
But you know what I look like.
Well, and everybody else does too. So another part of welcoming everything and pushing away nothing is your own self-image. Have you been able to let any of the things that make you, are you able to let them go? And like for me, I always had an incredible shoe collection. And as I got older and my feet started hurting, I live in orthotics and tennis shoes. And I just don't buy shoes anymore. I wear my orthotics and tennis shoes. And it was hard at the beginning. I can remember saying, "I'm wearing nun shoes. I hate nun shoes." Because you hear us talk about we were raised Catholic, and God knows nun shoes really were not very pretty. And you just sometimes have to let things go, because at some point your comfort is more important, or something else is more important to you. And the last part of this is, as people come closer to death, there's only really 2 questions that matter. One is, am I loved? And the second, did I love well? And think about for yourselves, how would you respond to those questions? What would you say? Did you love? And were you loved? And did you love well? So the third invitation is bringing your whole self to the experience. So Frank O writes that we all like to look good. We all long to be seen as capable and strong and intelligent and sensitive and spiritual, or at least well-adjusted. We project a positive self-image. Few of us want to be known for our helplessness, our fear, our anger, ignorance, or that sometimes we're more of a mess than we really want to admit. But to be whole, we need to include, accept, and connect all parts of ourselves. Wholeness does not mean perfection. It just means that no part is left out. But whenever we over-identify with a role, it defines us, it confines us, and it reduces our capacity for conscious choice. It sets up an expectation that about how life is supposed to proceed. Think about the roles that you carry and how much of those do you no longer need? When I retired, I was going through the grants and papers that I'd written, and I was moving, and I had to think about, do I need this stuff anymore? Can I just throw it away? And it was really hard for me and I planned to retire for a long time before I retired. So it wasn't like a new idea, but still unloading those boxes of grants and data and papers and what then is my definition of myself? I'd been a nurse since I was 21 and a nurse practitioner, since I was, 30, and a professor, and now a mom of 20-something-year-old daughters. And so in this retirement role, what did I really need? And I think as I've been retired for this last year, what I've come up with is that I need my orthotics and my comfortable shoes and, a shovel for my garden and my relationships. And I think now, my microphone and this podcast with Charlie in terms of sharing with people the idea that death is normal and that if we prepare for it, that it doesn't have to be awful. It'll still be a loss, but there are things that we can plan for and educate ourselves about. Also, what goes along with this is that, think about it when you were a child and an adult criticized you. How did you respond? Did you withdraw, collapse, silence yourself? Did you try to please and accommodate, negotiate, persuade, explain? Did you rebel, talk back, act with hostility? And are you still doing it as an adult today? What is your inner critic doing? And are any of those responses that we learned as young kids, are they working today? You hear Charlie and I talk about our Catholic guilt and our adjustment to our Catholic guilt and pulling out our Catholic guilt or trying to stuff it back in a box. I mean, I don't know, any of you that are Catholic and you grew up within the Catholic school system, you probably understand that. And I know, Charlie, you do.
You know what? Yeah, thank God for therapy. I have to disagree. Yeah, for me, it's, the idea of like stuffing it in a box. Yeah, that image for me is that, a box can, be bulging at the seams. But I did that for a long time with all of that, with the Catholicism. So, yeah, I think, the idea of just stuffing something in a box is, again, it can come back out. It's just need to deal with it. Something like that will always be with me, but it doesn't take main stage. And if something comes up about that particular religion, I can put it in perspective now, where, in my 20s, going into my 30s. It was still a dominating force, and it's like, no, something's not right about it. It just was not a comfortable fit, and I had to make it into a comfortable fit.
Yeah, that's a choice that you said. Therapy. It's thinking about it. It's talking about it. Our listeners who are younger. Well, our listeners who are younger didn't get beaten up by the nuns, so there's that. Because it wasn't allowed. But when we were young, we got slapped around.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy. We say that and laugh now like, well, of course you did. But no, and that's strange because in our generation, well, yeah, of course you did. And I still remember there was one time I actually complained to my father. I said, Dad, sister, I say Sister Mary. I mean, how many Sister Marys are there?
A billion.
Yeah, exactly.
They were all Sister Mary something.
Yes.
Not Sister Mary Sunshine.
Sister Mary Elephant. Cheech and Chong. Yeah, and not Sister Mary Little Miss Sunshine. Exactly. But I said, that she hit me with a ruler. I don't remember for what, but it was something, I don't know. I didn't make the sign of the cross fast enough or something like that. Who knows? So, and I said that to my father and I looked to him, for love and support. And he looked at me and goes, good. So now you remember next time not to do whatever you did. Like, it's like, shit, not the answer I was looking for. But there we are.
Like I said, I recently moved and I found my old report cards and I was looking through them and I don't know if I was showing my kids or showing David. Mm-hmm. And I said, look at this here. So I think I was in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And, it was report card day and I had to do, I don't know, I was reading out loud or something and I had to say, what was I think it was the state Arkansas. And in my egocentric life of living up in Michigan, I didn't know how to say Arkansas for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it was 7th grade, but whatever grade it was. And the nun thought I was goofing around. And she, in front of the whole class, took my report card out and put a minus next to my conduct grade. And you can still, to this day, you can see it's a different colored pen where she did that. Now, I can't tell you what I did yesterday, but I can tell you how I felt when she changed my grade in front of the whole class, when honest to God, I didn't know how to say, like read it and say it. Like, what are all these S's? I guess I have a thing with S's. So,
wait a minute. Say Scotch.
Scotch.
No, your S's sound fine to me. Well, here, let's try something more difficult. Scotch and soda.
Scotch and soda.
Well, okay, it's fun. Yeah.
Jeff is not waiting for. Oh, you want to talk what?
Yes, actually, a serious question. You had said. I'm sorry, and I forgot exactly what it was. But the two things that people think of at the end of their lives.
Am I loved? And did I love well?
That has not, and maybe it will some other time, but that has not been my experience. I mean, personally for myself, and as I've mentioned, I spent many years working in a law office in asbestos litigation, dealing with, I'm not, over the years, hundreds of people who were literally dying from mesothelioma. Yeah, that never came up at the end for me. And also,
but we're talking
hosting
about
some death cafes. It's
on the deathbed. On the deathbed, we're talking about close to death, like like now and at the hour of our death, kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I had to deal with clients like that too. again, that a lot. And what I mostly heard was, I'm in pain. What can I do about this pain? Um, Actually, no, there were three things: pain. Um, what do I need to basically? What do I need to do to die in regard to like documents? Who do I have to contact? And there was also the question, what's next? Is there a God? Is there anything? What happened? But really, the biggest thing that I experienced was the big people wanted to discuss was pain management and what documents do I need or what do I need to do? So I mean, are we? Is this like two different levels, two different planes, two different playing fields, or?
I think things begin to change when the pain is managed and the documents are filled out. So it's sort of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Okay.
What is it? Like pain is right there as a basic thing. People who are very, very close to death don't feel the hunger, being able to breathe or not be able to breathe is going to be a basic thing. But if you get breathing controlled and you get pain controlled, then you're able to move up to sort of higher level needs.
Like conscious. Oh, needs. Okay. I was going to say conscious needs. Okay.
Like self-actualization is way up there at the top. It's that thing of, did I love well? Does anybody care? Am I here alone, taking my last breath? And what did it all really mean? So we can all have different experiences with people at different phases throughout the dying process. But when Frank is talking about it, he worked in a hospice. So he's talking from a perspective of people that are in the last hours of their life.
Okay.
Those minutes or hours where the end is very, very near, and who is there. And if you're going to be in a hospice, those things like pain aren't going to be an issue because those are going to be managed. And things like, do you have your advance directive or all the paper? That's going to be managed. Like those things are done in hospice because that's their specialty.
Okay.
So once you kind of pull those other things off the table, the core of that end of life is about like who's with you and where are you going, and how well did you love? How well did you do what you came to the earth to do? And it's not about the job that you got or did. It's about your relationships as a mother or as a sister, or the relationships with the people in your life.
Makes sense. Okay, I got it. Makes sense.
So death's really not waiting for us at the end of a long road. Death is always with us. It's in our marrow of every passing moment. Death is a teacher that's hiding in plain sight, helping us to discover really what matters most. And Charlie and I are offering this podcast to help people find a comfortable place in their own mortality. It's not about focusing on death. It's about focusing on living our best life and completing the circle of life in peace. And our next podcast will finish up Frank's book and talk about the final two pieces of that. In our third half, Charlie is going to talk about famous last words. So our roving reporter, Charlie Nostradamus, is going to share last words that people have spoken before they died.
So, Irish playwright Oscar Wilde said some variation of either that wallpaper goes or I go. Russian playwright Anton Chekhov, no relation of Pavel Andreev Chekhov of Star Trek fame, said on his deathbed, "It's a long time since I drank champagne." I don't speak Russian, so I'm sorry if I butchered the pronunciation. Vodka, spasiba, Srovia. Vodka, please. Cheers. Well, I guess I do speak Russian. So, Norwegian playwright Henrik Ibsen, on his deathbed, said to the contrary. Now, this was in response to his nurse, who was in the room at the time, who had invited. There was some visitor visiting Ibsen, and the nurse said to the visitor, "He's getting better." And of course, then Ibsen said to the contrary, and died. Yes.
Some people just always have to be right, Charlie.
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Isadora Duncan, dancer, just before dying, when her long scarf got tangled in the wheel of a car she was riding in, said, "Farewell, my friends, I go to glory." It just seemed a little too perfect.
Yeah.
But then years later, the friend she said this to before the car drove off, admitted that Isadora Duncan had actually said, "Je vais à l'amour," I go to love, because in that car, she was on her way to have a sexual liaison with the driver.
Oh.
Yes. So I guess to protect the innocent, her friend just made that up.
Wow, that's a good friend.
Yeah. In Lenny Bruce, comedian, his last words, "You know where I can get any shit?"
He did not have hospice care. I am just going to guess.
I'm going to guess you're right. No, he didn't. Shit, meaning, of course, drugs.
Right.
Yeah. So Bruce died of a drug overdose. And remember to vote, please, this coming year. This has been a non-paid political announcement. So Lenny Bruce died of an overdose. And also, but before that, he had been arrested and convicted on misdemeanor charges of obscenity. And this was in 1964, which pretty much killed his career. Mm. Well, in 2003, he was pardoned by New York Governor George Pataki. It was his family's push for this. Big name comedian Robin Williams pushed for this. And Lenny Bruce was exonerated.
Oh, that's good.
Moving up a few years, in 1994, Ayrton Senna. He was a Brazilian Formula One driver. Before he crashed he crashed to a wall at the San Marino Grand Prix, said, "The car steers okay." Several years later, in 2001, Dale Earnhardt, American race car driver, before his fatal crash at the Daytona 500, said, "Okay, just wondering."
What was that in reference to?
I'm not sure. I tried to find it and I couldn't find it.
But we get to make it up. We could just make up any story, right?
Well, it's Dale Earnhardt, so I don't know if we want to make up anything about Mr. Earnhardt. Okay. Continuing on a theme, Paul Walker, actor, famous for the Fast and Furious movies. His last words, "Hey, let's go for a drive." And he died in a car crash. Yes.
Wow.
This one we can laugh at. The next one we can't laugh at. About 60 years later, James Dean, actor and really Marlon Brando's only rival, said to his mechanic about another driver, "That guy's got to stop. He'll see us." Of course, James Dean also died in a car crash. Debbie Reynolds, actress and singer, Singing in the Rain. Her last words, "I want to be with Carrie." Carrie Fisher, of course. Yeah, Carrie Fisher, her daughter, who had died, just the day before.
That's sad, huh?
Yeah. Frank Sinatra, who appeared with Debbie Reynolds in The Tender Trap, and actually whose favorite drink was a Jack, 2 rocks, and a splash of water. A Jack, of course, was Jack Daniels, founded by Jack Daniel, whose final words were, "One last drink, please." No, serious, it really was. Yeah, one last drink, please. But he died. That was his last word. He died of some poisoning. I think some sort of blood poisoning. So, Sinatra's last song in public. It was at a private party for the Frank Sinatra Golf Classic Tournament. So Sinatra's last song in public was "The Best Is Yet to Come." And Mr. Sinatra's last words, "I'm losing it." And there we are.
What did he die of?
Oh, poo. I don't know, but I will find it and we'll post it on the.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I don't remember. I don't think he was sick ahead of time, was he?
His health was failing, given all the hard living, specifically all the drinking and the smoking. I don't think it was any cancer. We'll look it up and post it. Yeah,
he looked pretty good before he died.
Yeah, but he died in what, 98? His last performance, I think his last public appearance, maybe even, was in 1996. I don't believe he was isolated, but when he got sick, he pretty much stayed at home. I don't think he was out very much. But we'll find it and we'll post it. And that's it.
So if you have any last words of someone who is dying and you'd like to share them with us, please send them with us in a message with your story to mail@everyonedies.org.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. Please stay tuned for future episodes of Everyone Dies. Our thanks to our executive producer, retired Major General David, our producer, Sandy, John, our technical advisor, and our friends, family, and loyal listeners, you, who are supporting our work at Everyone Dies. This is Charlie Navarrete.
I'm Marianne Matzo.
And we look forward to talking with you soon. Be safe out there.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
This podcast does not provide medical advice. All discussion on this podcast, such as treatments, dosages, outcomes, charts, patient profiles, advice, messages, and any other discussion are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Always seek the advice of your primary care practitioner or other qualified health providers with any questions that you may have regarding your health. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard from this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Everyone Dies does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, practitioners, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned in this podcast. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast by persons appearing on this podcast at the invitation of Everyone Dies or by other members is solely at your own risk.